Hello. I don't know why I suddenly leaned forward like I was going to be. Hi guys, it's Brett. Thanks for dropping by my channel. So today I wanted to talk with all of you. I had said, I think in my last video, that I wanted to do a video, I would like to do a video of upcoming 2024 releases, because believe it or not, it's right around the corner. I was having kind of a panic attack last night because I was like, am I going to get through what I want to get through? What should I be reading? What should I not be reading? What should I be listening to? What should I not be listening to? It's so stupid, but because I do feel like sometimes if you don't get done with what you think you're going to get done, then it gets put into like a slush pile, and then you maybe won't get around to it again, which is awful and stupid, but whatever. It is what it is. So all that to say, I have 10 books I want to share with you today that are going to be coming out in 2024 that I am excited about and wanted to share with you. All right, the first thing I want to do is talk about 4 books that aren't going to be in the 10, but are all new releases, some of which I've already read, but I'm not going to talk about them today except to show you what they are, because I'm going to address most of them at the end of this month for my November wrap up. Okay, so the first one is Ways and Means, which I had been reading on my last video. I finished it. I liked this so much, but again, we'll discuss this with all of you in a few weeks. So that's the first. I'm going to start this next, which is Broughtpsy by Christina Cooke. Again, just showing you the cover. This also comes out in January. Ways and Means actually comes out in February of 2024. Christina Cooke's book comes out in January. Martyr, I know I talked about by Kaveh Akbar. This comes out, I think, the 3rd week of January. Actually, it's much earlier. I think it might be the 1st week of January. So this will be probably the last thing I read in November, because, spoiler alert, he's coming on the podcast and I want to be sharp and have it very in my head right before. And the last thing, which is what I'm reading right now, which is Mark Daley's Safe, a memoir of fatherhood, foster care, and the risks we take for family. Really enjoying this one. And this comes out the last week of January of 2024. So those 4 are, in process. I'll talk more about those with you either next week or the week after when I do my wrap up. Okay, so the other thing that I'm reading right now, I'm actually listening to it, is Foster Dade Explores the Cosmos. And I'm enjoying it. It's a long book. It's a little over 500 pages. I'm about 140 in. I will say it's a very verbose book. It's very, 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 very wordy, and sometimes it can get a little annoying. And he's very Nash Jenkins, very, very, very detail oriented. Sometimes I feel like there's so many details about so much minutia. I'm like, dude, let's just keep the train going, because I don't need to know about every single point of interest along the way. But anyway, so we'll see where this lands. Okay, so all of these 10 I've arranged pretty much around publication month. And buckle up, because I'm going to be reading you some descriptions from all these books, because having not read any of them, I'm not going to be able to speak to most of them extemporaneously and say this is what it's about. So bear that in mind. First, Tusks of Extinction by Nayler. Ray Nayler wrote this book that I loved last year called The Mountain and the Sea, which was very overlooked. It was kind of like sci-fi adjacent, and I think that's the reason that a lot of people didn't pick it up. But it was so smart about a kind of shelf in the ocean that housed or hid these octopus who were extremely smart, like super smart. And they found them in pods together, which is not how octopus live. And so a scientist is brought out there because there's a race, because the government wants to capture these octopus because they believe that they can be helpful to science, be helpful for things like Alzheimer's, a variety of different things. But one of the scientists that goes realizes that the octopus are trying to communicate with them. So that's a really good book, The Mountain and the Sea. This is his new one. I'll read it back. When you bring back along his extinct species, there's more to success than the DNA. Moscow has resurrected the mammoth, but someone must teach them how to be mammoths or they're doomed to die out again. Dr. Damira Kismulina, there's no way I pronounced that name correctly. The world's leading expert in elephant behavior was brutally murdered while trying to save elephants from being driven to extinction. Now her digitized consciousness has been downloaded into the brain of the mammoth. Can Damira help the new mammoths fend off poachers long enough for their species to take hold? And will she ever discover the real reason Moscow brought them back? Okay, so it sounds really cool to me. Like I said, I loved his first book. And thank you to Tor.com for this copy. I was a little shocked when I took it out, which I thought maybe it was a preview of the book, but no, it's the whole book, which is 100 pages. So it will clearly be a quick read. So there's that. Grief is for People by Sloane Crosley. I've never read any Sloane Crosley before. This is a memoir following the death of her closest friends. It says it's a deeply moving and surprisingly suspenseful portrait of friendship and a book about loss packed with verve for life. Sloane Crosley is one of her most renowned observers of contemporary behavior, and now the pathos has been put ever present and her trademark wit is on full display. After the pain and confusion of losing her closest friend to suicide, Crosley looks for answers in friends, philosophy, and art, hoping for a framework more useful than the unavoidable stages of grief. So this sounds really interesting to me. It's strange because as I'm reading it, suddenly I just finished Stay True by Hua Shu, and I have the pronunciation of his name correct because I listened to it on audio. And that also dealt with a friend who died not by suicide, but so I'm looking forward to this because Hua Shu's, and I'll talk about this in the next week or so, wasn't completely successful for me. All right, so that actually is February. The American Daughters by Maurice Carlos Ruffin, and thank you to Random House for this copy. We Cast a Shadow was a really cool book that I really enjoyed by Maurice Carlos Ruffin. This book, it's about a spirited girl who joins a sisterhood working to undermine the Confederates from the award-winning author of We Cast a Shadow. 80, a curious, sharp-witted girl, and Sanit, her fierce mother, are inseparable. Enslaved to a businessman in the French Quarter of New Orleans, the pair spend their days dreaming of a loving future and reminiscing about their family's rebellious and storied history. When mother and daughter are separated, 80 is left hopeless and directionless until she stumbles into the Mockingbird Inn and meets Lenore, a free black woman with whom she becomes fast friends. Lenore invites 80 to join a clandestine society of spies called the Daughters. With the courage instilled in her by Sanit, and with help from these strong women, 80 learns how to put herself first. So begins her journey towards liberation and imagining a new future. The American Daughters is a novel of hope and triumph that reminds us what is possible when a community bands together to fight for their freedom. I think it sounds really good. This is out February 24th. How are we doing? Is everyone holding up? Okay, I got a big one for you. The Book of Love. I first heard about this book from Liberty Hardy, who I know is on Instagram as Franzen Comes Alive. She was the original person way back when who kind of brought me into the whole books on social media world. And so I love to see kind of what she talks about. And this is one of the books she's talking about. It is a chonker of a book, 628 pages. What I can't glean from this is if it's like a older young adult book or an adult book. The Book of Love showcases Kelly Link at the height of her powers, channeling potent magic and attuned to all the varieties of love, from friendship to romance to abiding family ties with her trademark compassion, wit, and literary daring do. Really, it says daring do. Readers will find joy and a little terror and an affirmation that love goes on even when we can't. Late one night, Laura, Daniel, and Mo find themselves beneath the fluorescent lights of a high school classroom almost a year after disappearing from their hometown, the small seaside community of Loveson, Massachusetts, having long been presumed dead, which, in fact, they are. In the room with them is their previously unremarkable high school music teacher who seems to know something about their disappearance and what has brought them back. Desperate to reclaim their lives, the three teenagers agree to the terms of a bargain their teacher proposes. They will be given a series of magical tasks. While they undertake them, they may return to their families and friends, but they can tell no one where they've been. In the end, there will be winners and there will be losers. The Book of Love by Kelly Link. This is supposed to come out February 13th. Well, right in time for Valentine's Day. All right, clearly this is one I'm very excited about. Armistead Maupin's Mona of the Manor. This is coming out in March. So, for those of you who know Armistead Maupin and follow all of his Tales of the City book, you'll absolutely know who Mona is. This book falls in the kind of center of the Tales of the City world. It's not, kind of after the final book. So, and it's Mona living in London, and she's actually living in the Cotswolds. So, I'm really excited about this. Armistead Maupin, previewed this a little. I got to meet him last month at the Pride on the Page Festival in Palm Springs, where Gaze Reading had a table set up. And the director of the program, because Armistead Maupin was the kind of marquee name for the first night, kind of reading from this to talk about the book. And we got to sit down with him. Jason and I got to sit down with him very briefly and meet him and talk. And he will be coming on the podcast for a full episode once the book comes out. So, but anyway, I'm really, really excited about this. Tales of the City, to me, are some of, for me personally, like touchstone books in my life. We all have those, and those series were extremely profound in my life. So very excited. Also coming out in March is All the World Beside by Gerald Conley. Gerald Conley wrote the nonfiction book Boy Erased, which was then made into a movie. This, from the New York Times bestselling author of Boy Erased, an electrifying, deeply moving historical novel about the love between two men. Cana, Massachusetts, a utopian version of 18th century Puritan New England. To the outside world, Reverend Nathaniel Whitfield and his family stand as godly pillars of their small-town community, drawing Christians from across the New World into their fold. One such Christian, physician Arthur Lyman, discovers a captivating love within the minister's words. As the bond between these two men grows more and more passionate, their families must contend with a tangled web of secrets, lies, and judgments that threaten to destroy them in this world and the next. And when the religious ecstasies of the Great Awakening begin to take hold, igniting a new era of zealotry, Nathaniel and Arthur search for a path out of an impossible situation, imagining a future for themselves that has no name. Their wives and children must do the same, looking beyond the known world for a new kind of wilderness, both physical and spiritual. All the world beside. Also, thank you to Riverhead Books for this. I think this next book you're going to see a lot of, which is Anita de Monte, Laughs Last. Say that 10 times fast. By Xochitl Gonzalez. I did not read, but here it's fantastic. Olga Dies Dreaming. This is her latest book. Funny, piercing, and full of moxie, unsparing in its assessment of what goes on behind the castle walls and the price people pay to be accepted into those hollowed walls. Anita de Monte, in 1985, a rising star in the art world, is found dead in New York City. Her tragic death is the talk of the town until it isn't. By 1998, Anita's name has all but been forgotten, certainly by the time Raquel, a third-year art history student, is preparing her final thesis. On College Hill, surrounded by children of the 1% who float through life knowing that their futures are secured, Raquel feels herself an outsider. Students of color like Raquel are the minority here, and the pressure to work twice as hard for the same opportunities is no secret. But when Raquel becomes romantically involved with a well-connected older art student, she finds herself unexpectedly rising up in the social ranks. As she attempts to straddle both worlds, she stumbles upon Anita's story, raising questions about the dynamics of her own relationship, which eerily mirrors that of the forgotten artist. Sounds good. Again, this comes out the first week of March, and thank you to Flatiron Books for this. Speaking of art and artists, Get the Picture by Bianca Bosker. I did not read Cork Dork, which was her previous book. It says a mind-bending journey among the inspired artists and obsessive art fiends who taught me how to see. Nonfiction. The best-selling author of Cork Dork takes readers on another fascinating, hilarious, and revelatory journey, this time burrowing deep inside the impassioned, secretive world of art and artists. An award-winning journalist obsessed with obsession, Bianca Bosker's existence was upended when she wandered into the art world and couldn't look away. Intrigued by artists who hyperventilate around their favorite colors and art fiends who max out credit cards to show hunks of metal they think can change the world, Bosker grew fixated on understanding why art matters and how she, or any of us, could engage with it more deeply. And Get the Picture, Bosker throws herself into the nerve center of art and the people who live for it. Gallerists, collectors, curators, and of course artists themselves, the kind who work multiple jobs to afford their studios while scrambling to get eyes on their art. As she stretches canvases until her fingers blister, talks her way into A-list parties full of billionaire collectors, has her face set on by a nearly naked performance artist, and forces herself to stare at a single sculpture for hours on end while working as a museum security guard, she discovers not only the inner workings of the art canonization machine, but also a more expansive way of living. Doesn't that sound great? Really fun. So yeah, this will be on sale. Oop, I'm jumping. This is on sale February 6th. Thank you to Viking for this. 2 more to go, guys. The first is Real Americans by Rachel Khong. This comes out in April. Don't have the exact date for you. And thank you to Knopf for the copy of this. From the editor's desk. Dear reader, like you, I haven't a clue where I was before I was born. I presume I didn't exist, and while my birth feels inevitable to me, it was essentially a lottery. I didn't choose my parents, or their pasts, or their time zone. In a way, you might say they chose me, and I've lived in the afterlife of that selection. How much of our lives proceed from that spark of chance is one of the key questions of life. Are we destined or made? And if the latter, who gets to do the making? Can one's genetic past be overcome? These questions form the heart of Rachel Khong's enchanting and brilliant Real Americans. With a cast of characters it contains, there's May, the matriarch who makes a bargain leaving China during the Cultural Revolution so she can continue her work as a scientist, and then makes another bargain for the survival of her family. We meet her daughter Lily on the first page at the tail end of Y2K, raised in America with enough privilege to resent the choices she faces as a young woman. Finally, there's Nick, Lily's son, who grows up in the Pacific Northwest without a father and wonders if this lack is a freedom or a loss. The only thing Nick knows is that his father is white and wants nothing to do with his son. Spanning 70 years and 3 continents, Real Americans is a novel of grand pleasures and modern concerns. It asks the big questions. What does it mean to be an individual in an era of epigenetics? What does privilege mean now? A truly great American novel. Real Americans. All right, and the final book. This isn't out till June. And this is the only June book I have, but I'm really giving you the down low. Bear by Julia Phillips. Julia Phillips wrote Disappearing Earth, which personally did not read, heard great things about it. But the folks at Hogarth, and thank you for this, are really bullish on Bear. I had to give you a dad joke. A mesmerizing novel of two sisters on a Pacific Northwest island whose family are upended by an unexpected visitor, a tale of family, obsession, and a mysterious creature in the woods by the celebrated best-selling author of Disappearing Earth. They were sisters, and they would last past the end of time. Sam and her sister Elena dream of another life. On the island off the coast of Washington, where they were born and raised, they and their mothers struggle to survive. Sam works long days on the ferry that delivers wealthy mainlanders to their vacation homes, while Elena bartenders at the local golf club. But even together, they can't earn enough to get by, stirring their frustration about the limits that shape their existence. Then one night on the boat, Sam spots a bear swimming in the dark waters of the channel. Where's it going? What does it want? When the bear turns up by their home, Sam, terrified, is more convinced than ever that it's time to leave the island. But Elena responds differently to the massive beast. Enchanted by its presence, she throws into doubt the plan to escape and puts their long-held dream in danger. A story about the love between sisters, the mysteries of the animals that live among us and within us. Bear is the propulsive, mythical, rich new novel from one of the most acclaimed young writers in America. Sounds pretty good. All right, so there you go, guys. 10 books, and I actually threw in a couple in the beginning that I'll get more into next week with more details. Let me know what sounds interesting to you. Of course, there's plenty more, and maybe I'll do another one of these later when I start to get some books that are coming out after the kind of first trimester of the year. How does that sound? I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're having a great week. Thank you for stopping by, and I will see you all soon.